We are so delighted to have in our midst today a lover of young people. He also happens to be a member of S.M.I.L.'s Board of Trustees and also the chairman, Lagos Building Investment Company, PLC, and the CEO, S.M.I.L.E Realty Company Limited. And I'm talking about no other person than Mr. Hakeem Ogunniran. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. We appreciate you. Over to you. Thank you, sir.
It's been great listening to praise as usual, listening to Benga and listening to other people on this platform today. Quite a number of things that I've covered in my presentation. They've already been covered, so I'm not going to waste my time on that. I'm going to do more of sharing experiences from my perspectives, what I've seen. And there are 3 or 4 things I'd like to tell you about myself. Number one is that I started working at age 22. And this was as a university lecturer. I started my career teaching in the university at age 22. As a matter of fact, I remember that my 23rd birthday was organized for me by my students. So you can imagine, I was just like one of them. That was in the Faculty of Law, University of Ilorin in those days. This was in 1985, I think. So that's the first thing I like to say about me. The second thing was that when I joined UAC, I became a CEO at age 37. You can understand becoming a CEO within the UAC group at age 37 was such a big deal at that particular point in time. And there was a time when I had the privilege of running a business with over 500 employees, and over 60% were young people. So I've always had the opportunity of relating with young people. Then my institute, I became the president of my institute in my early 40s, Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. And I remember that election I contested against somebody who was 71 years old, who had qualified probably before I was born. Went against him, won the election, became the president, and tried to change things within 2 years. However, I also like to tell you that I worked in UAC for almost 25 years. I was in UAC for almost 25 years. That is very, very important because tenure of work is something different, radically different today. It's difficult to find somebody who will sit down in an organization and work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 24, 25 years. But I was there for almost 25 years. I retired in 2018 to set up my own private business about the workplace today and the evolution of business. The world of business has changed radically, and we all must understand that. The way businesses are today are not the same way businesses were 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, 20 years ago. So that has changed. I play in real estate. And as a player in real estate, for me to maintain my relevance, I've had to do a whole lot of specific search for knowledge. When PropTech came, Real Tech came into the industry 6, 8 years ago, I had to deliberately look for knowledge. I had to understand NFTs. I had to understand metaverse. I had to understand how you use technology to drive business. I was invited to speak by Standard Chartered Bank 3 years ago, alongside some younger players in the industry. Now, I want to put the whole of my contribution in context, because there's so much rivalry between the older generation and the current generation. And I found this quotation by Michael Dimmock, which puts my own perspective right on spot. And it says, generations are a lens through which to understand societal change, rather than a label with which to oversimplify differences between groups. I think the moment we begin to appreciate the fact that changes are bound to occur from generations to generations, in terms of knowledge, in terms of values, in terms of the way we do things, we'll find it a whole lot easier to be able to integrate our position, integrate our thoughts, and understand how to work together. In my office, I've never, and I'm very serious, I've never had any problem working with young people. In fact, I was surprised when one of my guys in the office was working with me on this, and I was giving examples, which I have in this presentation, of things that we do as a matter of norm in our office, which are quite relevant to this. So we need to understand that generations are bound to come with different set of knowledge, different set of attitudes, different set of beliefs, different set of ways that we do things. Particularly today, when the digital ecosphere has overtaken practically everything. Once we understand that, I think we will begin to have lesser problems about the issues. I'm going to talk about my introduction. I will skip a whole lot of things which have been spoken about today. I would like to talk about best practices, speak about a few things in my office, and then speak about how to bridge the gap, understanding the differences in intergenerational perspectives on business structure, on HR management, on business models, on risk management, and things like that. Just give a few examples, and then I go to my last slide. And I think that we must understand that we still have the COVID-19 hangover. And a whole lot of the things that we're doing today is just to ensure that we're able to, as we move along, break all age-related barriers so that we can build back better, as we all are saying. I was speaking yesterday to African Real Estate Society, and I said that the impact of COVID-19 is still there. And a whole lot of the things that we do today, we must situate them in the context of all the challenges which have been foisted upon all of us. It's been mentioned here today that to achieve the SDGs, we need to leverage on the full potential of all generations. Solidarity across generations is key. It is important that we collaborate to foster successful and equitable intergenerational relations and partnerships. In my office, there's no distinction. And incidentally, I think the next person to me in my office is like 42 or thereabout. And then somebody, and the other ones are 28, 30 something and whatever. We do things together. We work together. I know where to take the back seat. I know where to take the front row. If we organize a training, for example, there was time we organized a digital training. I sat down with them for the whole day because I wanted them to understand that this thing is very, very important to me as it is important to the business. And I think that's what we need to begin to do. So I'll skip all these definitions since I'm going to leave my slides behind. A lot has been said about the fact that we now have like 5 generations working together now. I'll skip that. And I found this slide very interesting, which one of my guys picked for me. If you look at these 4 generations, baby boomers represented by female to the large generation X, by Chimamanda, millennials, Burna Boy, Generation Z, represented by Kabi Lin. Somebody supposed to be jobless, and we all know what he has done with himself in terms of what he does on TikTok today. That should clearly tell us that we've seen these significant changes, and we just have to situate everything in context just to understand where we are. By the way, in my office, if you come into my office, you'll see a set of, we have what we call inspirational billboards. So we have people that have inspired us in one way or the other. And even without all these discussions, from the beginning, I divided it into 2, the older generation and the current generation. So in the older generation, you will find big guys in real estate. You find S.M.I.L.E, you find Elijah Konde, you find Obafemi Awolowo, you find all manners of people who have inspired us. But in the younger column, you find like Usain Bolt, you find Tolu Arotile, you find Dr. Stella Adadefo, you find Tyler Perry. And by the way, this week, we're adding Tobi Amusan and Professor Mabokunje, who just died, who also have played a significant role. And this we have done without reference to the fact that there are issues around intergenerational matters and things like that. Now, there are a lot of challenges of intergenerational workforce. We've heard about communication, negative stereotypes, varying expectations, So I'm just going to skip that. But there are benefits which I've seen. Number one is that you find multiple perspectives. I run a real estate business. When I was defining the niche market in which we are going to play, which, by the way, we're targeting young families and millennials and mid-tier people. That's the core of our business. We took a decision to build only studios, 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms. We have to define the niche properly. And one of my people in the office said, let's define our niche by reference to where these people go. Where do they go? They go to Quilocks. They want to close at Quilocks by 12 midnight. They want to get to their homes within 15 minutes. So you need to be able to create homes that will enable them to do this. Now, these guys are not worried about size. They're not looking for mansions. They are ready to trade size for proximity. These are values which were put into a strategy by the younger people in my business. And it has worked so well for us. Problem solving, knowledge transfer, and all those other issues. Now, let me quickly speak about what I think are the best practices, because we have to be deliberate. And then I'll go to what I think is my last line, and I'll round up. Number one, we have to deliberately create the right communication strategy. We have to bring the generations together around the table in a manner that works for everybody. In my office, I always like to make reference to my office. When we hold meetings, everybody, you make your presentation. The guy who runs my real estate cooperative in the office, I think it's 26 or 27. He runs the cooperative. We've allowed him to fly. He flies. He takes all the decisions. He makes mistakes. When he makes mistakes, we come together, we correct him. We give him the room to fly in the marketplace, and it's working. It's working for us. Deliberate about communication. We have to ensure that we learn from each other. Of course, there are areas of strength that has also been stressed there today, of the older generation, of the newer generations. I go to the marketplace with my network, with my experience, with my knowledge. These guys come with innovation, with tech savviness, with fluidity, with creating the right platform for me to meet my customers in the marketplace. And that helps us to work together. We want to focus on inclusivity, ensure that nobody is left out. Of course, you ensure that you have the right people in your business in the first place. Whatever generation you have in your team, it must be the right people. And once they are there, ensure inclusivity. Avoid stereotyping. One of the most pervasive issues around this is that we find a lot of stereotypes. I come across young people who think that we don't know IT. When I spoke at the Standard Chartered Bank event like 3 years ago, and I was pitched along some younger people in the industry, I told them that, guys, I'm not ready to go anywhere yet in this industry. And I've taken my time to understand I was writing a book last year. Let me just give that example. And the last chapter of the book was the future of risk regulation. And I had to look at risk management. I had to look at ESG and technology. How do you write on technology and risk regulation without doing the research? I had to go and do proper and deep research. And I understand how prop tech will drive my business, how real tech will drive my business, and all those things. Let me just close, because this is very, very important for me. And I call this my last line. At this point, I always make in my office, and whenever I have the opportunity to speak. At the end of the day, businesses are created for results. The workplace is all about value creation. So whether you tell me you want to work from home, you want to work from your car, you want to work from the street, you must remember that the reason why we are together is to create value. And once we understand that, we also must understand across all generations that there are some, I call them time-tested levers that accentuate performance and success. Today I mentor some startups, and I always stress for them that there are things that you cannot short circuit. Number one is vision. As an entrepreneur, no matter the generation you are, You have to define your destination. It doesn't matter whether you are Gen Z, whether you are a 20-year-old, you cannot just jump it. And governance is an issue that this current generation have an issue. And you can imagine somebody like me, with my background as a charter secretary, being around a PLC and things that I always stress about vision. The next thing is passion. Jack Welch says passion is deep and authentic excitement about work. It doesn't matter your generation. You need to have the passion to deliver. And that's why we encourage people to do things where your passion meets your vision. The next thing is discipline. Whatever age you are, there's a book by Larry Bossidy, The Discipline of Execution. You have to understand those building blocks. Whatever business you are running, whatever stage is your business, those elements must drive your success. Integrity, diligence, empathy. It doesn't matter your generation. These are time-tested values, levers that you must pull. So the last line I leave for you in this session today, because I'm running out of time, is that whatever your generation, you can't afford to leave these time-tested values at home. I spend a lot of time speaking about social capital, about governance of businesses, no matter the level, no matter your generation. You need to understand that you have to pull these levers so you can drive performance and grow exponentially in the marketplace. Thank you very much. Once again, I'm happy to be here this afternoon. God bless you and thank you for having me.